Hey YouTube, you ever have that moment where you like press the record button and it hasn't really clicked that you're actually recording a video? That's kind of how I'm feeling right now. I wrote so yesterday I was having this conversation with some people and it was a pretty cool conversation, I guess. We were talking mostly about just essentially becoming full-time creatives and being like fully independent authors and what skill sets. It was like an icebreaker kind of question, so like what kind of skill sets would be good to have for becoming a full-time creative. And this was just kind of like to spark conversation, like an icebreaker. And I was thinking like it would be really like one of the skill sets that I think is really cool, is even for like YouTube channels, it applies to this, is like being able to sort of get like a small following of people that are pretty dedicated to your thing. And this could be for like being an author too, which was the context we were talking about it in. Pretty much just getting like, 100 or even like 1,000 people if you're able to, who are just really like interested in the stuff that you're making, on like a very almost like a personal level, and kind of like trying to cultivate a community around that. And basically once you kind of have like, I guess, a base of people, that would be kind of like your I mean, it sounds weird to be like, that would be like your income, but like, that's what's kind of supporting you. You know how like people use like Patreon and stuff like that, essentially just like getting that small base of people. And I kind of labeled this as like um kind of public relations, so like building a community, kind of maintaining it, like public relations. And I felt like this was much different than marketing in a way. Um, and so I guess in this video, I wanted to kind of talk about my thoughts, the differences between public relations and marketing. Um, and like, this was kind of, pretty just like, like there were different like opinions being thrown around. It wasn't like a massive debate or anything. Nobody was really like, disagreeing with each other, but I thought that this would be like an interesting topic to make a YouTube video about. It's not really something that I'm like, marketing, public relations. It's not really anything that I'm like passionate in or really, you know, known. Like I don't use it in my day-to-day job. But I do think that it's like interesting to me to know how to define these terms and kind of like compare and contrast them. So yeah, that's just like kind of how my brain is thinking. Anyways, so yeah, like I was like I did not major in marketing, business, PR, any of this. I don't use it in my normal job. Um, what kind of triggers this like what kind of like triggered this kind of feeling, essentially was I was like a debate major at university, and debate was kind of like in the field of communications, and that's where public relations was considered a communication major, whereas marketing was considered a business major. So that's what kind of got me thinking about like what are the differences between public relations and marketing. And so I just thought that they're like, that gut kind of intuitive feeling that there's something that's why they're separate for a reason. So I was kind of like doing some looking around, and what I've kind of figured out about marketing, and I could be completely missing the ball here, but when I think about marketing, I think of like, it's like a department that's trying to promote awareness about a product or service that you are trying to present to your audience or customers. Um, it's trying to, I think of it more like you're hunting for for like awareness. You're hunting for these customers, to basically buy this product or service. And your main mission of how you kind of, I guess, measure success is the revenue. So if you're driving up viewership, you're driving up revenue. That's kind of like you can quantify that. You can see this is the number of interactions I'm getting on this advertisement. This is the amount of sales that's you know being you know we're getting over this time period that we're promoting this product. That's how I think about marketing. At least it's kind of like this short term systematic results oriented process, whereas public relations, I think of it as more of like, instead of hunting for customers, you're kind of preserving an already established garden. So you may be planting some seeds, but you're not necessarily you're planting seeds for a long-term kind of payoff. You're not really hunting to get the meat right away. You're kind of trying to reap those fruits further along. And I think this is kind of, instead of trying to get engagement, like, you're in the marketing, I feel like they're trying to cast like a fishing rod out to try and reel in a fish, and maybe this is more like you're trying to keep the fish on the hook in public relations. So the fish might, be engaged and hit the hook, but then it might just leave the hook. So PR is there to kind of keep them maintained. Um, so while marketing's main purpose is to kind of it's very results quantitative focused, I think that public relations is more um, trying to maintain a positive brand image through qualitative um, measurements. So like, you're trying to kind of act in accordance to this predetermined vision that you're kind of establishing. And for example, like, if you're trying to market a product towards, like, middle class white suburban moms, for example, marketing would try to create ads catered towards them. But if you were trying to maintain this audience, you might also have these other kind of benefits or perks that the company is providing to its customers already that don't necessarily you know, that's not really about getting them to buy the product. It's just about like, oh, this is something that, like, maybe there's advertisements for like other businesses, like, oh, this is a service for, um, like, your kids to, like a daycare service or something that we're not even affiliated with. We don't really get any, um, but we're not like motivated by monetized benefit gain. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but pretty much these like kind of things that don't really benefit the company, but show that the company cares about the people. And I guess the goal, in the perfect world, is that the company actually does care about its customers, and then it feels genuine for the customer to appreciate the extra additional services that the company is providing. I don't know if that makes sense, but pretty much that's what I'm kind of thinking. It's like you're planting these seeds, from the company's perspective, you're planting these seeds that like benefit the customer so that you can almost build this relationship. And it kind of sounds very like persuasive in like kind of like a manipulative way when you think about it. But like, at the end of the day, I guess it is like business. But ultimately, in a perfect world, the PR team isn't really just doing it to be manipulative. Their goal is to really genuinely care about the customer. And like, another example I was thinking of is like maybe a philanthropy department where they're like, you know, donating money to organizations that, you know, do on one hand show that the company is acting in good faith, but also to really like help out other people and, uh, really just do good in the world. So I don't know if that's making sense, but I feel like that's like the difference, where marketing is really trying to get a viewership and PR is trying to maintain a viewership. And once again, this is just my surface level thoughts that I was trying to communicate in this conversation that I uh, thought was interesting enough to make a video about, because this channel has no real restrictions or limits on what the content is. So I guess, so what? Why does it matter if marketing and public relations are the same or two different things? And I think that like, one of the reasons why I think that this was important to bring up in the context of our little small group discussion is because I feel like, as a indie author, or as a aspiring YouTube channel or something like that, we're always thinking about how can I market myself, how can I get people to buy my book, or how can I get people to watch the channel or something like that. And I think that you know, the main motivation for an author to create content or a YouTuber to create content isn't necessarily because they want to focus on marketing. And so I feel like marketing is almost this afterthought. And so if we group public relations in with marketing, I feel like it kind of gets lost in the weeds. So I think that when you kind of understand that public relations is a whole nother skill set to marketing, then you can be like, okay, so this marketing is for gaining an audience, but then I also need to invest time into public relations, which is tending the garden, maintaining the people who are already watching my content, who are already buying my book, and try to get them invested into this thing that I'm making, kind of create this sentimental attachment to it. Um, and I think that this PR element is critical for that reason, because if you're just collecting new viewers who aren't really staying with your product, then it's not really going to be a full-time endeavor. It's going to be like kind of like this fad in your life where it's like, oh, I made these books, and some people bought them, but then people stopped really buying them and stopped really engaging in my stuff. So then it's not really full-time anymore if you don't really have that PR to really maintain your image, if that makes sense. So that's why I thought it was important. Um, I just get the impression that like marketing, I I think I just said this, but I just get this impression. I just want to like double down that I think that marketing your book is just not why like an independent author wants to be a writer. Sometimes people will hire like outside companies to do marketing for them or do PR for them, but I think it's mostly just I think that ultimately I think that PR is just grouped into marketing as this like marketing is this umbrella term, and I just think it takes two different skill sets. And I think I've said everything I wanted to say about the topic. I just want to make sure that I didn't forget anything. But yeah, don't give, I'm again not an expert, just kind of giving my opinions out there. Feel free to leave comments if you have any different opinions or if I'm completely missing the target on this one. Have a good one. Later days.